Good morning. Great to be back at our Crime Analysis Center. I had just an extraordinary visit, a reminder of how technology can make a real difference in saving lives. And what we've created here, along with our other centers across the state, is a place to have connectivity. There are 11 counties that are doing work right here. I saw people from sheriff's offices and police and federal agencies and local counties that are in a room, all sharing information and collaborating in a way that has never happened before. And we're going to talk today about what results are occurring from that kind of collaboration, which I'm really proud of. First, I want to thank our Mayor, Kathy Sheen. You'll be hearing from her in a couple of minutes. And we're just so proud of what has happened in the city under your tenure, the growth, the fact that we're making some real good progress in driving down crime, which I know is one of your top priority as well. So I want to thank Mayor Sheeran for all she does. Chief Brendan Cox, these are high-stress jobs, and they're not for the faint of heart. But you have been a strong leader through some challenging times, and now we're able to see clearly on the other side. You know, the numbers are bearing out some incredible developments. I want to thank every member of the police department here. We have our Sheriff, Craig Apple. Thank you, Sheriff, for all you do keeping the county safe. Our District Attorney, Lee Kinlan, Albany County, making sure that when people commit crimes that there are consequences and that the justice system truly works. My partners in government, Assignmember John McDonald and Assignmember Gabriela Romero, who I see on a daily basis, it seems. We're always doing events together, but they're true leaders and making a real difference here as well. Look forward to welcome and serve with our Mayor-elect Dorsey Appleers from the City of Albany. I have to give a special shout out to Joe Popcom, the Executive Deputy Director of DCJS, and you know, it is his voice that is bringing so many ideas to us and how we can always never rest on always push the bar even higher, and I appreciate what he does for us. And Todd Weiss, who's the director of this Capital Region Crime Analysis Center. I'm proud to stand here with all these people who are dedicated to one purpose, which is to make sure that people in our communities are safe. And they sacrifice a lot, you know, particularly during the holidays and the cold and time from families and, you know, the stress. These law enforcement jobs, especially those who are right on the front lines, they're high-stress jobs. And they often have to see people in difficult, challenging circumstances or go to a crime scene and witness, you know, what many of us would have a real problem understanding and comprehending and adapting to. So I always tip my hat to the men and women who have chosen this form of public service. It is incredible. So always grateful to check in on them. And I'd like to talk about some progress, though. You know, our ongoing mission since I first became governor, and crime was escalating in numbers that we had not seen in a long time. It was a frightening time back in 2021. Coming through the final months of the pandemic, but everything was kind of set off kilter. And in our cities, and it's not just New York, it was a nationwide phenomenon where crime was up everywhere, but gun violence in particular. And I want to create something that had not been happening before, which is collaboration with our neighboring states and creating an alliance with all of our neighbors, because the guns are not coming from New York State. We don't make them here, most of them. And we have to stop that pipeline of where they're coming from across the border, up 81 from Pennsylvania, or up 95 from down south. And we saw that if we could have a stranglehold of the gun trafficking coming in from other states, we could protect our citizens even more and our residents even more. So we focused on that. Those meetings continue. It is first in the nation. I've encouraged other governors to foster the same kind of relationships. But today we're focusing on the localities here in New York that participate in the GIVE program, the Gun Involved Violence Initiative. And we've partnered with more than 24 police agencies. And as I mentioned, the gun crimes are down to record lows. And if you had asked me a few years ago if I'd be able to say that today, I would have said, I'm not sure, because the trend was going upward. How you go from an upward trajectory to now having record lows is something we want to talk about today. So let's talk about how far we've come. The number of shootings with injury nearly doubled in 2021 when I first took office, doubled from 2 years earlier. So crime was very much on everyone's minds. Doubling of crime, doubling of shootings with injury. So we made it our top priority. What do we have to do? We had to change some laws. Some of the laws that need to be changed in the legislature were important. It's now having an effect that's important. We have to hold more criminals accountable and end that whole cycle of people in and out of the criminal justice system without consequences. And changing now more recently even our discovery laws, which resulted in so many cases being dismissed on just obscure technicalities, which were shocking. And also bringing resources to the table. Law enforcement had not been funded at the levels I believed was appropriate. I spent 14 years in local government. We had very little help from the state government to fund our police department, and I was responsible for hiring chiefs of police and interviewing individuals who wanted to become members of our police department. So I was very involved in this at the local level, but we never could look to Albany for any kind of sizable support. It just wasn't there. And I knew this coming in as governor, and I wanted to change that dynamic radically, and we have. We funded police and public safety now at record levels, $3 billion over the last few years. That is staggering. But every dime has gone to a purpose that I consider so worthy. And what is it using? I've been going all over the state, from Long Island up to Buffalo, to see exactly how they're using the money we've deployed. They're equipping our officers with the best crime-fighting technology, whether it's license plate readers or whether it's in-vehicle computer systems that connect to others, whether it's the drone technology. I have seen everything, and state-of-the-art efforts to use all the tools that are out there but are very expensive, that police departments all want to have, but they're beyond their reach and their budget. So that's where the state steps in and says, listen, this is important, we're going to get it done, and we're going to support you financially. But also strengthening our network of crime analysis centers, which is where we are today, as well as bolstering our anti-violence organizations, our local boots on the ground community organizations that sometimes have members who've been through the system themselves, and they have a story to tell. They are the trusted people that can go into a community and talk to young people about finding a different path in their lives and not going down the path that they had gone on. So that is a powerful tool that we use in all over the state, and I'm really proud of the work they do there as well. And we more than doubled the funding to the GIVE initiative, and that expanded to 8 additional police departments, 4 more counties. So we now provide funding to 28 law enforcement agencies in 21 counties. As I mentioned, that can help hire more personnel, pay for overtime, enhance the training. So let's talk about Albany. Over $5 million in additional funds to support this. And across the board, we're making real progress here. So what are we looking at? Hotspots policing. I just saw examples of this on the big board in the Crime Analysis Center, and saw where they can track on a map where the hotspots are occurring over time, and they shift. People on the street understand that there's a lot of surveillance in an area. They may go somewhere else. Where are they going next? We can track that literally on these maps and send more resources and attention to those areas. A focused deterrence, and again, the street outreach. And let's take a look at the numbers, because they are quite remarkable. Shootings with injury, down 60% since 2021. Gun-related homicides, down 58% since 2021. Last year, we had the lowest number of shootings on record. Let me repeat that. We've been tracking this data a long time, the lowest number of shootings in the state of New York on record. And with only 3 weeks left in 2025, we're on our way to shattering last year's record. So we're keeping it going. We're keeping the momentum going. It was not just a one-off and we're done and we're mission accomplished. We're still moving forward to drive the numbers down even more so. So when they told me all this, I said, this year as well, on top of last year's record? They said yes, because I could never get out of my mind how bad things had gotten. The fear in our streets and in the bigger cities like New York City, the fear on the subways, it was real, it was palpable. And it takes a long time for people to, even though the data shows a different story, for people to feel differently. And I don't expect them to overnight. And me standing here telling them the data is better is not here to say, have no fear, everything's perfect, because everybody has their own emotions and their reaction to what they experience firsthand. But overall, to be able to say that the numbers have dropped dramatically is a incredibly, incredibly positive development here. So I think we have a lot to be proud of. And we didn't do it by sitting in Albany dictating policies. It happens because of the people behind me all over the state. These are the real, true heroes in my book, the ones who are out there getting the job done and doing it so well. Let's focus just a little bit on Albany while we happen to be here, Mayor. just as impressive. The numbers are just as impressive. In Albany, shootings with injury down, well, 60% here in Albany as well. And reflect on these numbers, what it means is there's a lot more people going to enjoy the holidays, not visiting a loved one who was shot in a hospital, who's now in a hospital bed, or even worse, having to go to a wake or a funeral home instead of having that person at their holiday dinner. This is what it means. These are real people's lives that are still there because we made a real difference. And I hope that the people who have dedicated themselves to this cause, and it is a cause, have a sense of at least some satisfaction to know that New Yorkers sleep better at night, knowing that the men and women in uniform and all the agencies and the support system around them are working for them. We sleep better at night. So people are able to spend their holidays with families as we approach that season. It's sometimes a disruptive, scary time for people, a lot of loneliness. People with mental health challenges, it's high stress when your life is not what you thought it was going to be. And that's where I think the state has an important role to help people with mental health challenges who are on the streets, who are out there still looking for that support, and that's important to me as well. But let's today take a look at this progress and know that one crime victim is one too many. But when it comes to public safety, we're just leaning further into what works, the proven strategies, and looking forward to announcing more initiatives in next year's budget. So we won't telegraph our budget yet. Still working on it. A lot of numbers, but let's keep building on the momentum. Whether you live in Albany or Auburn or Buffalo or Binghamton or Long Island or the North Country, our job is to keep you safe. And there's one person who's dedicated his life to that experience here in the city of Albany. We're fortunate to have him. Chief Cox, I want to bring him up to speaker. And you've made the Albany PD a national model in community policing, and that is something we're all enormously proud of. So let's hear it from the Chief of Police, and thank him for his service.
Thank you, Governor. I can't thank the Governor and her team enough. This is about partnerships. The only way that we can ultimately drive down crime, the only way we can ultimately make the public safe is to have partnerships. If we try to live out on an island by ourselves, we're not going to get the work done. The reason why we ultimately have a community policing philosophy within this city, not just within this police department, within the city, is because we've heard from the public, we've heard from our partners that we ultimately need to do this together. We need to solve problems. And the Governor and her team are all about solving problems. They've come to us, they've sat down in rooms, they've said, let's build this together. And I can't say thank you enough to the Governor and her team for all that they've been able to do for the city and for the state, because at the end of the day, the Governor's made this city, made this state safer by this partnership that's been built. The numbers that the Governor's gone over, those numbers have made this city safer. There's more work to be done. As the Governor said, one shooting is one too many. We cannot have shootings on our street. We cannot have crime on our street. But we need to continue to work together to continue to solve those things. So when we start talking about those numbers, over a 5-year average, we're down 63% when it comes to the number of shootings where people have been shot in this city. And again, one shooting is too many. That partnership is a partnership between the state, county, and local agencies. We've seen a growth in the Capital Region Crime Analysis Center. So the technology that's available ultimately helps us do our job. But there's also a partnership with community-based agencies that helps us to get our job done. And when we talk about how we solve a crime that's happened, we look at gun violence, we look to bring the offender to justice. But we also look to make sure that the victim gets the services they need. So we're looking at things from a multifaceted view. So while we're responding and bringing the offender to justice, we're also trying to make sure that the victim gets the services they need. The funding that comes from the Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Initiative helps us to do both. It helps us to work with our partners that are standing here today and community-based partners to make sure that not only are we dealing with the offender, but we're also making sure that the victims, their families, and the community get the services that they need. So we need to continue to do that. I also want to make sure that I recognize the never-ending perseverance of the women and men of this police department, because without them, we could not do what we do. They come to their place of employment here every single day, and they just sacrifice everything that they have to make sure that this community is served, and served extremely well. They make sure that they bring offenders to justice, and they make sure that victims are served in every facet that they need. So I can't thank them enough. Without them, we could not do what we need. What we will continue to do is have a four-pronged approach to how we address things here. We will continue to look at enforcement, because we need to ultimately bring offenders to justice, but we will also look at deterrence, education, and prevention, because we need to make sure that we address things before they happen. And deterrence, education, and prevention are the things that we need to do. And I thank the state for the support they give, because without the state and without that support, we would not be able to do those other three prongs. We would just be caught up in a cycle of continuing to try to catch up through enforcement, and that is a never-ending loss by trying to do that. So thank you. I'm going to turn things over to the mayor now for her remarks.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Governor. This investment would not have happened without your leadership. And one of the things that law enforcement needs is the tools to get the job done. And as times have changed, and as the ability for criminals to bring guns into our community and the methods for them doing that has changed, as people are able to order parts and assemble guns, these are all things that have really transformed the tools that we need in order to do the job. And so, Governor, you have understood that and given us the tools that we need to get these results. And I joined a number of mayors in Baltimore a couple of years ago with Mayor Scott. When you think about Baltimore, more than 300 homicides every year, year after year. He had to beg his governor to help fund GIVE. He had looked out at communities, particularly New York State, had invited a number of mayors from New York State to come and talk about what was working here. And he had to beg for the resources to get that done until he got a new governor. And now he really has those resources and is driving that down. But the mayor of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I were at this conference, and we looked at each other and said, in communities the size of Albany and Allentown, we know the story behind every homicide. We're small enough. We know the families. We know oftentimes what might have started a dispute, whether it be a domestic issue or just a beef between groups of people. And so we live it, we see it. And so when we say any shooting is one shooting too many, those of us who are here at the local level, particularly in a city the size of Albany, we know that, because these are folks that we see in our community, in our churches, in our grocery stores. And so to see the community be able to look at the resources that we've been able to bring to their neighborhoods to keep them safe is something that they really can feel, that they see that and understand that that comes from a deep sense of caring about communities. And under Governor Hochul's leadership, we've had that. And so this doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of the incredible work of law enforcement. But if we don't give them the tools that they need, it makes their jobs a lot harder. You've given them the tools that they need. You will continue to invest in them, and we will continue to work towards safer communities. So thank you for your leadership.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you.
Thank you. That concludes our program.
Right, yeah.